of all, thank you so much for coming, for spending your Saturday night. This was a much more civilized Havdalah ceremony than the one that I did quickly after my nap, rushing through at home, forgetting that happened here. Thank you to the shul, to Beth Radom for opening up its doors to a group of people who I think embody resilience. I'll tell you what I think resilience is. They told me not to be political, and I'm a politician, so I'm going to try. I'm going to try, but no promises. But I'll talk a little bit about resilience. I think resilience is a place like this, named after Jewish life in Poland 80 years after the Holocaust, celebrating the simchas every single weekend in these walls. That's resilience. I think the resilience is each and every person in our community that has stood in the face of absolute chaos in our streets that we never thought was possible. There was already a 100% rise in hate crimes in this country before October 7th, but there's been a 251% rise, and most of that targeted at the Jewish community. And standing up to that is resilience. Resilience is the hostages that have come home, and thank God for that, to begin their journey in healing. So many of whom we feel like we know now, so intimately. Resilience is the 79 that still remain in the grips of the barbarism that is Hamas and all of the proxies of the regime in Iran. Resilience is our allies from the Pentecostal community, from the Hindu community, from every community that doesn't have to say this out loud, but do because it's the right thing to do because they are morally clear. Resilience is the young people in Israel who we all made fun of for eating avocado toast on the patios of Tel Aviv, who are now on the front lines fighting a 7-front war, protecting the West from a complete annihilation of civilization. Resilience are the teachers that go to school in our TDSB. Resilience are the nurses who need to go to work every day in a hospital union that you never thought would be a part or would say the things that they are saying out loud. Resilience is our police officers who protect us on our streets and who work with even in our police unions that have lost their minds in terms of right and wrong. Resilience is something that happens by necessity. And it happens every single day on Parliament Hill, where I go to work in the watermelon patch that is the House of Commons. Again, with a government who believes with a government, and here's where I get political, with a government who has really let this community down, who has really left it out to dry. And I'm not just talking about funding the anti-racism programs, hiring guys like Laith Maroof, who have said things that I won't repeat because I'm standing on a bima in a shul. Or putting Birju Ditani in charge of the Human Rights Commission in Canada, who is an apologist for terror. It isn't the fact that the Prime Minister hasn't addressed this country's scourge of anti-Semitism. It isn't the fact that 4 years after the IRGC killed more than 80 Canadians in a plane crash, that they were still not listed a terrorist organization until it was convenient for them on an eve of a by-election. I can go through the list of how this government has let down this community. But I'm gonna skip all of that and tell you that resilience is you. Resilience is each and every one of our community members who still live here, who still have hope in better days ahead. Faced with protests in the streets of masked, pretend jihadists terrorizing communities, where gunshots have gone into schools, not once, not twice, but 3 times in our own community. where fire bombings have gone into businesses, where they have been vandalized, broken into, where protests have taken place in the neighborhoods predominantly lived in by the Jewish community. And we don't have a law problem. We have plenty of laws on the books. I'm sure there's a couple lawyers in the room. We have an enforcement problem in this country.
Yep.
And until you stand up and demand better for the government, we are not going to get better. Until the government believes that we should change the people, that something's wrong with the people. But it's this government who has made the decisions at the top of who to hire, of what to say, of what not to say, of where to leave a vacuum of leadership. And it is not for the government to change the people, but it is finally for the people to change the government. And I assure you that the next government, we will defund UNRWA on the first day. Canadian tax dollars should be funding those who kill our own citizens on the other side of the world. We will finally call a terrorist in this country. We will deport those who break laws, who are temporary residents here that are wreaking havoc in our streets. We will never hire the likes of Laith Maruth or Bijou Detani to make any decisions within the government of Canada, and we will make sure that on our university campuses, that students can go to school without being scared, without the woke perversion, the ideology that exists in all of those institutions. We will rid this country of that. And I know that there are lots of people that are by our side who don't need to be by our side, and I thank you for always standing up for what's right and what's good. And I hope that if at any time there is anything that our community can do for your community, that I hope that every one of these people will be lined up to help you. And you have so I want to end by saying thank you for your resilience. Thank you for coming out here on a Saturday night 16 months later after October 7th. Thank you for doing it before October 7th. Thank you for making this a part of who you are, to show the world that we're not going anywhere. That the Jewish people were here at the inception of this country. We have built this country. That they were there on the same land, speaking the same language, singing the same songs for 3,000 years, and we are the only people to do that. Make sure you continue to tell the world that we are not going anywhere, and I assure you that there's better days ahead for our community, where these knights are not listening to me, but they are dancing, and they are celebrating, and they are lighting candles like we do every Friday night, and having Havdalah every Saturday night. Be there with me when things change in Canada and when things change in the world, and I will make sure that I am at the forefront of that change with our next Prime Minister. Politics limits what we can bring. So I brought you the certificate on behalf of the Parliament of Canada for all of the work that everybody here does, and for opening the doors of your synagogue to what I hope are better days ahead. So thank you so much. Oh, we're trading gifts. We are.
Yeah. Thank you for you as well.
Okay. There we go. Let's do one more first. Okay. This is all live streamed.